It's Easter Sunday. Now imagine it's dark. And then poof, there's light. And people and you and me, not yet, but Adam and Eve and lions and tigers and bears and lots of plants and everything. All there. God created everything then. And then he made us. In his image. Okay, that's crazy. So it's Easter Sunday. This is the story, this basis of what Easter actually is. Because, a lot of people don't know what Easter is. So I was like, hey, people need to know. So, yeah, Easter. This is all factual in the Bible. After God made us all, in the garden, it was perfect. And us as humans, we had to mess it up. Because that's what we're really good at, apparently. And yeah, we sinned. We did the one thing, the one rule. God was like, don't bite the tree. Don't bite the tree. Don't bite the fruit from the tree. And we did. And we fell short, and we sinned. And then we were separated from God. For God to not kill us, because God is perfect. And he is, in his perfectness, cannot be with sin. Because he's so holy. And so, in order to not be with sin in this world he made perfect, he has to kill sin. Which would be killing us, killing Adam and Eve in this garden instance. But he didn't. Instead, he killed the first animal. Killed a boar or something. Killed an animal. And that blood atoned for Adam and Eve's sin. And so from then on, throughout all the Bible, all the Israelites, which is God's chosen people, and they came out of Egypt, and before that with Abraham, Father Abraham, so all those people had to sacrifice an animal for their sins. Like after God brought the Israelites out of Egypt, they had this system. They had to have a perfect thing, like a perfect lamb or a dove, like a baby one, because that was the only way it could be perfect, to sacrifice. And they had to sacrifice that, and they confessed their sins on that animal. They killed the animal, and it atones for their sins. And that was what they did at the temple, like for years and years and years. Every time you sin, like that's a lot of animals. Like you lie, and then you have to go kill that animal. It was crazy, but that's what they did. That's how God had planned for them to do that. But God had a bigger plan in mind. Since beginning in the garden, God had the plan. He said to Satan, the serpent that tempted Adam and Eve to get that apple, he said, you might have tempted them, but I will soon crush your heel. And that's like a reference to Jesus dying on the cross. God knew we needed an ultimate sacrifice, one sacrifice to cover all these sins, so we didn't have to keep killing these animals. Enter Jesus, fully man yet fully God in every way, and still sovereign. He got hungry, he got thirsty, he was tempted by sin. He went out into the wilderness for 40 days and was tempted by Satan in every way known to man. And that's in Matthew 4, 1-11, if you want to look that up. But he was on a mission. He was sent by God. Through Mary, Christmas story, he was sent by the Virgin. Sent through the Virgin Mary for you watching this video. And me. This mission he was on was so massive, so encapsulating of the entire human race, that when the time came, when it was Easter week, Passover week, Sunday, Jesus comes into Jerusalem because it's the whole Passover week, the whole celebration, which is based in the Passover from Egypt. I guess it was in Egypt. It was in Exodus with Moses. He comes in, and he does all this week. Thursday night, the night before he's going on the cross, he's afraid. Jesus was afraid. It wasn't because he was scared of what was to come, is because he knew what was going to happen. He knew. He fell on his knees in prayers in the Garden of Gethsemane with his disciples. The disciples are oversleeping, but he's there praying to God. He said, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me." He fell on his knees in prayer. He was like, "Lord, if there's any other way," because he knew how the hurt, and he knew how much everything, because remember, he's fully God, yet he's fully human, so he can feel everything that happens. And he knew the pain he would endure. But then he also knew at the same time the pain we would endure if he didn't follow through. So he prays, "God, not my will be done, but yours be done," because he's still in reverence to the Father. And he did this because in Hebrews 12:2, Paul's talking, he says, "For the joy set before him, he endured the cross." For the joy set before... What joy is he talking about? You might be asking. Because that's a valid question. Because, there's not much joy unless you're Jesus. And you know why you're there. To be on that cross for the joy of saving of putting all the sins of every person, the past, the present, future, every single person's sins on that cross. Because he was sent by God to be that ultimate sacrifice that God had planned from the beginning when Adam and Eve sinned. To cover every sin ever committed on that cross. Even after the crown of thorns was put on his head, the whips are lashed on his back until he's nearly unrecognizable as a person. He's mocked, and even after having to carry the cross some way, which is 40 freaking pounds, he couldn't even carry that. Someone had to come pick it up. And then being nailed on the cross. Jesus, on that cross, not only had to endure that physical pain, but you know when you sin, you get that you're kind of feeling. Yeah, Jesus took the weight of every sin of every person in the world at the same time. What? That. The spiritual burden. That, we can't even imagine compared to the physical, man. But he sacrificed his very being, and in the moment when he took all the sin of the world on him, it was so much that his Father, even God, had to look away. He couldn't look at his Son. And Jesus cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" But then he sacrifices his very being. He says, "It is finished," in order that we could be free from sin, and in order that we would live. But it doesn't end there. He rose again. 3 days' time. He had told his disciples in 3 days he would rise again. Jesus was brought back to life, symbolizing when we choose him, he gives you new life. Taking all your sins, taking it all, because he died on that cross. He was brought back to life in this glorious victory, defeating sin and death and everything once and for all, and defeating Satan once and for all on that cross, and giving the promise for that all who believe in him will be completely cleansed and forgiven of all their sins, and be in heaven with him one day when they die. Now that's a promise. Even with that, being saved doesn't make us perfect, man. We still stumble and sin. I still sin and stumble. And it's hard. Because in this world, Jesus says, you will have trouble. But take heart, because he has overcome all the anxiety, all the sin, all the worrying things, the things you worry about, all of that. He's covered it. And that's why he died. To cover every single sin. Be this example of love. He loved you so much that he would go through all that pain, all that hurt for you. So that you could be free. So that I could be free. That's the message of Easter. That's what Easter's about, and that's what we're gonna celebrate. I'm gonna celebrate today at church, going right now to celebrate who Jesus is, because it is a glorious thing to celebrate what he did. I hope someone learned something new from this, learned what Easter really means. And so I'm gonna go celebrate, and then gonna go eat some good food. I hope you enjoy your Easter Sunday, and wherever you're watching this, just know, man, even if you're not a Christian, if you don't believe anything I just said, that's okay. Still died for you, though. Still loves you. That's why he died, right there. For you, man. For me. For everybody on the world. Past, present, future. All of it.